All right, so today we're diving into Bitcoin, but get this, not the usual way. Like, forget the price charts and all that. We're going deep on how this digital money, Bitcoin, could actually reshape our cities.
Yeah, like literally how they look, how we live in them even.
Exactly. I mean, think about it. Concrete jungles, right? But maybe, just maybe, Bitcoin could help us build them better. We're talking about something called Bitcoin urbanism today.
Which sounds kind of out there, I know, but bear with us.
Yeah, it's wild. It really is. Okay, so we're pulling from this talk with Tour de Meester. He's like a Bitcoin OG who knows his stuff. And then there's Kelly Lannan. She's a real estate developer, so she sees how cities get made. And Austin Tunnell. Now, Austie's an architect, but he's all about these timeless materials, like brick, masonry, the good stuff. They had this whole conversation, and honestly, my mind was blown.
I bet. What really hooked you, though? I mean, there's a lot to unpack there.
Oh, man, where do I even start? I guess what really grabbed me was this idea that how our cities are built, the actual design, it's messing with us more than we realize? Like, have you ever just looked at some modern building, all glass and steel, and felt like something was off?
Totally. Like it's missing soul.
Exactly. And it's not just us feeling that way. There's actual science behind it, like these eye-tracking studies they talked about. People look at classical buildings, all the details and stuff, and their brains light up. But these modern designs, it's like their eyes glaze over.
And like our brains are saying, this ain't it, Chief.
Yeah.
So what gives? They say it comes down to the why behind the what. Like,
Yeah.
why are we building this way? Developers, they're all about short-term gains.
Right. Make a quick buck. Move on.
Exactly. And that means cheap materials, cutting corners, just churning out buildings like they're iPhones or something.
And that's how we end up with these soulless suburbs, designed more for cars than actual humans.
With like 40,000 traffic deaths a year. That's what they said. And don't even get me started on the social cost. All that sprawl, it isolates us. No more bumping into your neighbor, no chance encounters, just you and your steering wheel.
It's like we traded community for a longer commute. So, okay, so far, so depressing. But that's where Bitcoin comes in, right? They kept saying it's some kind of answer, but I wasn't totally following.
Yeah, okay, so imagine this. Bitcoin, it kind of forces you to think long-term. It's decentralized, there's only so much of it, and that makes people value things that last,
Yeah. Okay, so like instead of thinking, what can I flip for profit next year? And it's more, what can I build that'll matter in 100 years?
Boom. You got it. That's the whole low time preference thing they kept mentioning. Basically, it's like Bitcoin rewires your brain to value things that last.
Interesting. So less cheap crap, more buildings like those cathedrals they were talking about, built to last centuries, using good materials. Now we're talking.
Right. They weren't kidding when they said real estate can be like the shitcoin of investments. But with a Bitcoin mindset, suddenly you're thinking generations ahead.
But hold on, bad architecture. Okay, I get it. But they said there's even more to this whole problem thing.
Oh yeah, we're just scratching the surface here. Think bigger picture. It's not just the buildings themselves, it's how they shape our entire way of life. The sprawl, the car dependency. It's like we're engineering disconnection into the system. Less interaction, less community, and that messes with us, man.
And the more disconnected we get, the more we cling to our cars and our phones, and the cycle continues.
Vicious cycle. But what if, and here's where it gets good, what if we could design cities that actually bring us together? So remember we were saying how Bitcoin can kind of shift your thinking to the long game? That's how we break free from this whole car-centric sprawl thing.
Okay, yeah, instead of those endless suburbs, we'd have what, like walkable neighborhoods?
Yeah.
Places designed for humans to actually, run into each other.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they said it all comes down to Bitcoin's potential to, get this, unlock patient capital. It's like right now, real estate is all about that quick buck, cheap credit, flip it fast.
Real estate. The shitcoin. They actually said that.
They did. Because it's true. So much of real estate is just speculation, not building something that matters. But Bitcoin changes the game because suddenly you're thinking, what can I build that'll be here in 100 years?
Like those cathedrals they talked about, right? Using gold, which held its value so they could plan for centuries. It's like, we've lost that vision.
Totally. They were onto something with that cathedral example.
Huh?
Patient capital isn't just about holding onto something. It's about building something worthy of being held. And they said, with that mindset, you make different choices. Better materials, designs that actually consider the human element. And get this, they said there are now something like 2,500 people worldwide sitting on over 50 million bucks in Bitcoin.
2,500 Bitcoin whales. Okay, but what's that got to do with how we design cities?
It's not about being a whale. It's about the mindset. See, a lot of these early Bitcoin folks, they're into it for the decentralization, the sound money, the long game. They get it. So they're more likely to invest in things that align with those values.
So instead of another generic condo building, they'd be funding like a neighborhood designed around community, walkability, all that.
Exactly. And they were big on small-scale stuff, too. Remember that 7-Eleven 4 rule?
Yeah, they kind of lost me there.
Okay, so basically it means having everything you need within a 4-minute walk from your door. Groceries, coffee, whatever. That way you actually interact with your neighbors, you build those connections naturally.
Makes sense. I mean, I hate driving just to grab a coffee, but sometimes you gotta.
Right, but in a well-designed neighborhood, you wouldn't have to. And they even said that if Bitcoin takes off as this global store of value, people might not even be so obsessed with owning a home.
Wait, really? That's a big one. Home ownership is like the American dream, right?
Right. But they're saying, what if your primary store of value is already secure? What if you're not depending on a house to build your wealth? Then you're free to invest in other ways, like in your community, in experiences, in things that truly matter.
It's like, what if we stopped chasing the next rung on the property ladder and actually built a life we loved instead? Wild concept.
Right. And it all circles back to those Bitcoin values. Long-term thinking, sound money, building a better future. It's not just about the tech. It's about aligning our actions with our values.
Okay, I'm getting chills here. But let's be real. How do we go from where we are now with our obsession with cars and home ownership to this more human-centered way of living? Seems like a huge leap.
It is a massive shift. But they were optimistic. They said it starts by changing how we think about value itself. What if, instead of just chasing profits, we invested in things that would benefit our communities for generations?
It's about planting those seeds, even if we might not be around to see the full tree grow. Okay, that's beautiful, I'm not gonna lie. But how do we actually make it happen? Where do we even begin?
Well, they said it has to start with a shift in thinking. Like really questioning those old assumptions about how we build stuff. And it can't be some top-down thing, like the government telling us what to do.
Right, because look where that got us already.
Exactly. This has got to be grassroots.
Yeah.
People saying, we want something different. But then there's all the red tape, right? Zoning laws, building codes.
Yeah, it's like the system's built to keep things the same.
It's tough, but they did mention some cities are starting to ease up on those zoning rules, making it easier to build those mixed-use, walkable areas we've been talking about.
So like instead of just houses here, businesses there, it's more mixed together.
Exactly. More organic, more human scale. And they were saying there are more architects and builders who are into the whole sustainable, human-centered design thing, too.
So it's like changing the rules, A&D, getting a new team on the field.
Right. Because at the end of the day, our buildings, they really affect us. They even talked about how those sterile, car-dependent places we've been building, they're making us sick, literally.
Yeah, they did mention some crazy stats about that.
Chronic diseases, obesity, all these things linked to how we design our cities. It's wild.
It's like we forgot we're supposed to be outside, moving around, connecting with each other, not just stuck in traffic.
It's true. And they said it doesn't have to be this way. They talked about cities in Europe, Amsterdam, Bruges, places built before cars took over. They've got walkable streets, public spaces where people actually hang out. It's a whole different vibe.
So how do we get from here to there? Like, it sounds great, but it's a big jump.
Big, but doable. That's what I took away from it. They said we need to shift our whole perspective, realize we're not stuck with this. We can choose to build something different.
So that long-term thinking thing again, investing in what matters, even if we don't see the payoff right away.
Exactly. Planting those seeds, leaving behind something better than what we found. It's about more than just buildings, It's about building a legacy.
That's powerful. I gotta admit, I'm feeling pretty inspired right now. What about you? What really stuck with you from all this?
I think just remembering that the future isn't set in stone.
Yeah.
We actually have a say in how it turns out.
Yeah.
We can make choices right now that'll shape things for generations.
It's like every little thing matters. Where we live, how we get around, it all adds up.
We're not just along for the ride. We're the ones driving.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
All right, well, on that note, I think we've done our deep dive for today. Thanks for joining us as we explored Bitcoin, urbanism, and building the future we actually want.
Absolutely. It's been a good one.
It has. And for everyone listening, keep asking those big questions. Keep pushing for something better. And who knows, maybe we'll see you in that Bitcoin-powered neighborhood someday.